Apologies, but we are back. Good morning. Welcome to Morning Joe right here on the Are You Serious Sports Network on Facebook Live, on Twitch TV, and on Twitter. I am your host, Jonah Malkin, going to be with you every single Monday and Wednesday morning from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 to 11 Central, and 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Had some audio issues for the first couple minutes, but that's okay. Delivered a great speech. I'm going to do it again, because that's what we do here at the Are You Serious Sports Network. Appreciate you making me a part of your Wednesday morning plans, and appreciate you making Are You Serious Sports a part of your Wednesday morning plans. Again, Morning Joe right here. I'm Jonah Malkin with you every Monday and Wednesday. So, got a lot to discuss. Some big wins over the past couple of days for the Chargers and the Saints. That was a big game. The Saints come away with that win. Bills and the Titans as well. I'm going to talk about that. Some college football. What the hell is wrong with the Jets? What the hell is wrong with the Jets? The MLB playoffs are back and hitting their stride at the right moment. And then I've got a great Malkin's Moments. You're not going to want to miss that. Esteban Esteves, much better. Let's get it rolling. Absolutely, let's get it rolling. Appreciate the comment. Want to make sure we are ready to go. So, Chargers and Saints took place Monday Night Football. Justin Herbert, rookie quarterback, taking on the vet Drew Brees. First of all, let me just say, I want to give credit at the end of the day to the Saints for winning this football game. At the end of the day, you have to execute and you have to collect wins however you can. And this is a struggling football team without Michael Thomas. And the bottom line is they figured out a way to win, and I give them mad props for that. But on the flip side, you're the Chargers. This is disappointing. I've been extremely impressed with Justin Herbert. I'm going to talk about him at length a little bit more in this segment. They are 1-4 right now on the season, but they should not be 1-4 right now. This is a team that has lost 4 straight games, 3 out of the 4 that they've actually led deep into the fourth quarter of these football games. Deep into the fourth quarter. You look at their last couple of losses. First of all, they open up the season beating the Cincinnati Bengals 16-13. Tyrod Taylor's the starter. And then we flip over. Justin Herbert literally wakes up out of bed before brushing his teeth, before he gets to take a shower, before he gets to put on some deodorant. Anthony Lynn sends him a text saying, "Hey, Rook, so you're going to be starting today. We're actually playing the Super Bowl MVP and the Super Bowl champs and the Kansas City Chiefs." Before he even gets to wash his face, he's the starter. He's taking over for this offense. Not only does he take over for this offense, he actually leads them to a 17-6 lead in the third quarter, and then gives them a 3-point cushion, 20-17, deep into the fourth quarter with 2.5 minutes left. And it's the defense that can't come up with a stop. Then you follow that up against the Carolina Panthers. That was the only game that they always trailed and that they arguably should not have won that football game. And they didn't. But the bottom line is they're down 21-16. Justin Herbert once again leads a potential game-winning drive, hits Keenan Allen inside the 15-yard line of the Panthers. He fumbles it. Now, I don't know if he necessarily would have been able to get out of bounds to stop the clock. They had no more timeouts remaining, and so they lost the football game. That's understandable. But they were in a position to win. Then you follow that up against the Buccaneers, and I've talked about this a couple weeks ago. I'll re-emphasize and reiterate it again right now. They're up 24-7 with 40 seconds left in the half. All you have to do is take a knee. Instead, they hand the ball off to my UCLA running back, Joshua Kelly. He fumbles it inside his own 10-yard line. Brady converts a touchdown, and that sparks a 21-0 run to give the Buccaneers a 28-24 lead towards the end of the third quarter. And then against the Saints, up 20-3 in the first quarter, in the second quarter, up 20-10 at the half. Not only does Justin Herbert, and I'm going to talk about him again, manage to tie the game up, orchestrate a game-tying touchdown, but then nearly orchestrate a game-winning drive if not for his special teams kicker missing a 50-yarder, literally hitting the upright. It couldn't have been a more scripted ending for the Chargers. You hit the upright and lose in overtime. This has been their season. This has been how they've lost football games consistently all year. And unfortunately, Justin Herbert is having one of the best rookie seasons ever. Think about this. So Justin Herbert, in his first Monday Night Football game, is the first rookie to throw for 4 touchdowns, 20 of 34, 264 yards. He's been special. He has thrown this year for a hair under 1,200 yards in 4 games. 69% completion, 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Think about this. Right now, those 1,200 yards rank 18th in the NFL for the most yards. And he's played 1 less game than every other quarterback. And he's already 18th. He's been averaging 312 passing yards a game. Imagine if he had that. At that pace, at that rate, he would eclipse 1,500 passing yards this year. That would catapult him up into the top 3 in the league, right behind Dak Prescott and Russell Wilson. So he's been special. Not to mention, you don't have Keenan Allen, your best wide receiver. You don't have your starting running back in Austin Eckler. And you've thrown this kid into the burning building that is the Chargers. And all you're asking is, hey, Joey Bosa, hey, Melvin Ingram, you guys get paid a lot of money to do your job. Can you come up with a sack? Can you come up with a defensive stop? It's been the Chargers defense that has been letting this team down. And again, credit to the Saints for exposing it and executing down the stretch. The problem with the Chargers is they are a terrible closing team. Their late game execution has been, for the most part, atrocious. And it's not Justin Herbert's fault. Last year, the Chargers lost 11 games. 9 of those 11 games were within 1 score. Think about that. 9 of the 11 games that they lost were within 1 score, and they lost. That can't happen. I don't know if that's Anthony Lynn and his coaching. I don't know if it's that the opposing teams just start to salivate when they see, oh, here we go. Chargers defense out on the field. This is a tight game. We've got an opportunity in the second half, because they are converting every single time. And again, I appreciate what Drew Brees and the Saints have been able to do, especially without Michael Thomas. Jared Cook has stepped up. Alvin Kamara has been spectacular for this team. He's really been the main source of offense. But you're the Chargers. This is a game that you should be winning. You're 1-4 right now, and Justin Herbert's record as a starter is 0-4, but they should be 3-2. He should be 3-1 as a starter. And I've been reluctant to acknowledge this because, again, I'm a Wisconsin fan, and Justin Herbert is an Oregon guy, and Oregon beat Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl. But I have to give him credit. He has looked great. And Anthony Lynn even said it. He acknowledged in the post-game interview, we've put ourselves in positions to win. We just haven't been able to execute. We need to execute the damn football at the end of the ball game. And that's what's cost this team time and time again. They have not been able to execute down the stretch. And unfortunately, the reality is that might cost them not only wins, but a chance at the postseason, which is something which were aspirations of this team. The second loss this year, they've lost 4 games, the second loss in overtime this year. That cannot happen. That cannot happen. 4 losses this year. This team's 1-4, really. Now the Saints have to clean up their own mess. Michael Thomas, we had a little bit more clarification into that altercation, right? Now it's come out that he was chirping back to Sean Payton. That's not a great look for him, but they'll clean it up. And again, the Saints just found a way to win, but the Chargers got to be better. They've got to be better, and I feel badly for Justin Herbert because he has played especially well so far this year. Esteban Esteves, Justin Herbert is outstanding. Of course, he's going to have his rookie mistakes, but the ceiling is sky high for the kid, and I couldn't agree more. Again, 1,200 passing yards, which is top 18 in the NFL right now. Top 18 in the NFL as a rookie. He's averaging 312 yards a game, one more game that he plays, and he's catapulted into the top 3 for total yards. So, congrats to the Saints. They improved to 3-2, but this is the Chargers blowing this game right here. And speaking of the other fantastic game that took place on a Tuesday night. Wow, that felt weird, didn't it? To watch a Tuesday night football game between the Tennessee Titans and the Bills on CBS. I don't know when the last time I saw a Tuesday night football game was, but sure as hell hasn't been recently. I can tell you that much. And I want to give credit to the Tennessee Titans because they clearly look like the better team, but it's tough to evaluate because the Bills hadn't practiced very often. Now, in fairness, the Titans had only practiced 3 times over the last 16 games. But the reality is they just looked sloppy. The Bills turned the ball over 3 times in this football game. I don't know when the last time they've turned the ball over that many times was. Definitely wasn't this year. It was definitely had to have been last year. And Josh Allen made some spectacular plays. There was a throw that he completed when the Bills were down 10-28. And he was leading them on an end of the third quarter, top of the fourth quarter drive, where he's buying himself some time from 22 yards out in the pocket and just throws a rocket of a dart to TJ Yeldon somehow in the back of the end zone. He was like, the hell with the dink and the dunk. We need 7. Or in his case, 6, because they failed to convert the 2-point conversion. But the bottom line is he hit TJ Yeldon on a rocket. It's a fantastic throw. Cut it to 16-18. But the problem right now, and again, I want to give credit to the Bills because, or rather to the Titans, because immediately following that touchdown from the Bills, this was exactly what the Tennessee Titans planned to do. And this is why I think they're so well coached with Mike Vrabel, and they are, is immediately following that touchdown, they orchestrate a 6.5-minute drive, riding Derrick Henry the entire way, eating up chunks of clock, and marching down the field bit by bit. That was their recipe for success last year, and they're not straying away from it. And that's what makes the Titans such a good football team. Now, probably next week, I'm going to come up with my revised top 10. But what makes the Tennessee Titans such a good football team is they have complete understanding of who they are. They understand what their identity is, what their recipe for success is. They are a team that pounds the rock. They eat time of possession. They eat up the clock. And they rely on their secondary to hopefully get opponents' offense off the field. Try and get opponents into 3rd and long situations and rely on their secondary to get off the football field. There's no interpreting what this team is going to look like when you face them. This is one of those matchups where when you see Tennessee Titans on the schedule, you know exactly who you're facing. You know exactly what you're going up against. This isn't a Vincent van Gogh painting where you're looking at the potato eaters painting and you're not sure who's looking at whom. You're not sure what the relationships are between all these people in the painting. There's no interpretation. This isn't an interpretive piece. You know what you're getting from the Tennessee Titans. They're going to run the football. They're going to eat time of possession. They're going to force your defense to make a stop, to defend and stop the run. And if you can't do that, they're going to wear you down. They're going to eat 7 minutes every possession, and then they're going to rely on their secondary with Malcolm Butler and Kevin Byard and take your offense off the field. And that's been the recipe for success. And now they're 4-0 this year. They have a clear understanding of self-identity and who they are. We just saw in the NBA Finals, Jimmy Butler's not a three-point shooter, didn't attempt many threes. He knows who he is. The problem with a lot of teams in the NFL is we don't know who they are. Sure, we understand how they are successful. We understand what their tendencies are, what they like to do. But this was a textbook, well-executed game from the Tennessee Titans. And again, they forced 3 turnovers to their credit. Malcolm Butler had 2 interceptions. The last time he had an impactful interception like that seemed to be against the Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl with the clutchest interception perhaps in NFL history. Seahawks at the 2-yard line. Russell Wilson throws it instead of handing the ball off to Marshawn Lynch. He throws an interception right on the goal line, intercepted by Malcolm Butler. Not to mention Drew Brees. He's typically an underneath thrower, likes short completions, high efficiency. He and Sean Payton have that rapport. They understand what they do well, and you don't see Drew Brees taking a number of deep shots down the field. He doesn't really do that because they understand who they are. Tennessee Titans understands who they are. Not to mention they take care of the football. The Titans are top 3 in turnover differential. All right, they have forced 6 takeaways, and they've only given away 1. This is actually the first time that they're 4-0 since 2008. Now, again, I would have loved to have seen that matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers for the Titans, who are also undefeated now, but there's still question marks I have about them. But this was just a textbook, well-executed victory by the Tennessee Titans. Jennifer Smith Harmon, Are You Serious? Best damn podcast for sports. ESPN, eat your heart out. I love the energy, Jennifer. Thank you for the shout out. Thank you for the support. We certainly appreciate it. I certainly appreciate it right here on Morning Joe. Take a sip of your Morning Joe if you have it with you. One of the exercises that I put out is if you have the most eclectic cup of Joe with you, I want you to comment it below. And the most interesting cup of Joe, I'm going to give you a shout out. I'm going to give them a shout out as well, because that's what we do here on Morning Joe, on the Are You Serious Sports Network, on Facebook Live, on Twitch TV, and on Twitter every Monday and Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 to 11 Central, and 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific. So from the unbeaten to the winless, the New York Jets. I've seen a lot of poor football over the last 23 years that I've been in existence. I have never seen a football team and an organization that is so flustered, they have no idea what the hell they're doing. They're 0-5 right now. Sam Darnold is a mess. He's regressing, and it's not entirely his fault. That's what we're realizing. It's not entirely his fault. He's thrown for over 700 yards, completing 59% of his passes. 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, QBR of 46. It's a mess. It's a dumpster fire right now in New York. And if you look at this franchise, not to mention they just released Le'Veon Bell. That trade didn't work out at all. That signing was horrendous. And I don't blame Le'Veon Bell for seeking his money because Pittsburgh apparently wasn't going to give it to him, although in hindsight, the money that he ended up collecting with the Jets is actually less than he would have collected over the past 2 or 3 seasons with the Steelers, but that's neither here nor there. All right, for Sam Darnold, and this is the issue with rookie quarterbacks, it's so important where you get drafted. Are you going to a well-oiled machine, or are you drafted by a franchise that is clearly rotting from the head up? It's like a chicken with their head cut off. They don't understand what they're doing. Because Sam Darnold, this is his 3rd season as the starting quarterback for the New York Jets. I mean, the first year completes over 2,800 yards, nearly 2,900 yards, 58% completion, 17 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. He was a turnover nightmare. Last year, in his 2nd season, he seemed to be improving. 3,000 yards, 62% completion, 19 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. This was a team that improved. This was a team that finished 7-9 in the AFC East. They finished ahead of Miami and were expected to perhaps make that leap. They were 5-11 the first year, 7-9 the second year. And this was a team that had higher expectations. The Patriots, Tom Brady was no longer there. There were question marks surrounding how effective Cam Newton would be, how effective this Patriots team would be. A lot of people thought that they would just fall off the cliff and pretty much tank for Trevor Lawrence. That didn't happen. Miami was going to be riding Ryan Fitzpatrick, perhaps an injured Tua Tagovailoa. The Jets were 7-9 last year. This was a team that was supposed to improve. We knew the Bills were going to be the best atop the division, but we expected more from the New York Jets. And Adam Gase, listen, he's still a young guy. He's only 42. But the reality is his stint as a head coach has not been great. He's had one good season as a head coach with Miami. In his first year he took over, he was 10-6, and then followed that up with a 6-10 record, a 7-9 record, and then a 7-9 record in his first year with New York. This is his 2nd year with New York, and he's 0-5, and he will probably be fired by the end of the season. Okay, the last time that the New York Jets finished with a winning record in the regular season was in 2015. The last time they made the postseason was in 2010. Not to mention they're 0-7 in games that Darnold hasn't played in. I mean, this is unbelievable. It really is. Because last year, again, they finished 2-4, 3rd in the East, all these expectations. And then 2 years ago, they're 4-12, worst record in the conference. And they step up, and surprisingly, with a 7-9 record in the AFC, they were the 8th best team in the AFC last year. And this team has now imploded, and everything just seems combustible in that organization. And I have a lot of inside sources who have complained about the way this organization is run, and they just need a clean house right now because something is not working, and it's a dumpster fire. There's something about New York. If you're not, the irony is most of the non-marquee city sports teams in New York are actually doing okay. I mean, the Brooklyn Nets with basketball are doing well. The Mets aren't horrendous. Sure, they're not the Yankees. They're not horrendous. But the Jets are just atrocious. This is embarrassing. This is really embarrassing. Morning, Joe. Right here on the Are You Serious Sports Network, on Facebook Live, on Twitch TV, on Twitter. Mondays and Wednesdays, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 to 11 Central, 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for making me and Are You Serious a part of your Monday and Wednesday mornings and every single day of the week, because that's what we do. Jeff Lee, get this bread. Appreciate the shout out, Jeff Lee. I'm going to send it to you right back. Hope you're doing well, my man. And let's shift to some college football recap, if you will. There are a couple big games I'm going to preview coming up this weekend, but I do want to recap some of college football. And again, I first of all, I love college football. I love the energy. Normally, the atmospheres are what make college football so special, with the student sections. And there's something about amateur sports, the fact that it isn't professional, that just makes matchups so much more fascinating, because there's so much more meaning behind every single game, so much significance behind every single football game that's played in college football. To make it into the playoff, most teams have to only lose one game at most. Maybe this year we'll have the first time a 2-loss team can make the college football playoff, but normally you don't. And I'm going to start off, first of all, Clemson destroyed Miami. That's not really a surprise. Clemson has just barreled through the entire ACC the last 3 years. They're 20-0 with Trevor Lawrence as a starter against the ACC, 28-1 over the last 4 seasons against the ACC. The one aberration loss was against Syracuse when they lost 24-27. And again, that was an anomaly. That was an aberration. And it nearly cost them a shot at the college football playoff. They ended up making it, but it nearly cost them a spot. But this game against Miami, Clemson was number 1, Miami was number 7. And I said this before last week. This was the opportunity to see if Miami is for real, if they were legit, or if they were a farce. And I wasn't convinced last week yet. The win over Louisville wasn't convincing to me. And similarly to the last time they played, the last time these two teams played, Clemson destroyed Miami in the ACC championship game 58-0 to secure a spot in the college football playoff. Unfortunately, it kind of reminded me of that time when Ohio State destroyed Wisconsin 59-0 to catapult TCU into the college football playoff and ultimately go on to win that national championship. And it was bookended perfectly. 2 perfect bookends. Travis Etienne in that first matchup in 2017 was a freshman running back, rushed for a touchdown, led the team in rushing yards. And fast forward to now, he had a fantastic game, 17 carries, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns, 8 receptions for 73 yards. He reminds me of Alvin Kamara right now because of his versatility, because of his playmaking, because of his skill set. This is a guy that can run the football, catch out of the backfield, can block, can do it all. He's electric. He's explosive. He's got breakaway speed. I mean, Clemson is 33-1 over the last 3 seasons with Trevor Lawrence as the quarterback. And Dabo Swinney, listen, he's a great coach. It helps when you've got a transcendent player like that. Their defense is elite. Miles Murphy has been playing extremely well. Andrew Booth Jr., a recent 5-star cornerback, has been fantastic. Darion Kendrick. Their defense is loaded every single year, as we would expect. Now they've got this tight end, Braden Galloway. You got a 4-star wide receiver, Amari Rogers. This team just finds a way to replenish, and they've been looking like the most dominant team. They're top 10 in offense in the in the country. They're top 10 defensive team in the nation. So now we're seeing the balance that they can display. Now, again, we're going to learn a lot more about them. Hopefully, if they square off against Notre Dame. Notre Dame beat Florida State 42-26 last weekend. Right now, they're ranked number 4. Those two are on a collision course to meet in the ACC championship game. That would be a thrilling matchup. The first time we would see a top 10 or top 5 at least matchup featuring two teams in the ACC for a chance to maybe make the college football playoff. That would be a fascinating one. So I'm looking forward to that one. Again, Notre Dame, they've got a top 10 scoring defense, top 3 and third down efficiency going up against a Clemson football team that I'd be excited to see. And I also think that might actually challenge them. So that would be one of the first matchups that I would be looking forward to seeing. Obviously, I want to give a brief shout out to North Carolina for knocking off Virginia Tech again. Was it extremely impressive? No, but Sam Howell played well. Another 200-plus yard pass performance. They've got running backs. They rushed the ball for 399 yards in that football game. Michael Carter, 17 carries, 214 yards. Javonte Williams, 169 rushing yards. This team can pound the rock. Now, again, Virginia Tech wasn't the biggest test, but the truth of the matter is they're going to have their opportunities in the ACC. And now they are becoming a more legitimate program. Mac Brown has done a great job with this program, and they're on their way to doing something special. They're really on their way. And finally, Georgia beat Tennessee. Listen, Stetson Bennett has played well. I got to give him credit. He's been solid in his 3 starts. Was a walk-on, a former walk-on in his 3 games, 20 for 29, over 200 yards. Then 17 for 28 in the win over Auburn. And then last night, 16 for 27. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's the key stat for Stetson Bennett and Georgia right now, is they don't turn the ball over, and their defense is elite. And the bottom line is, this is, again, 3 straight games where you're getting quality production out of your starting quarterback. I was convinced that JT Barrett might take over the reins. That certainly hasn't happened. And right now, based on the looks of it, it looks like Stetson Bennett is going to keep his job as a starting quarterback. He's earned that spot. The locker room believes in him. He's paid his dues, and he's stepping up. He's playing well. And so I'm really looking forward to that. Obviously, Texas and Oklahoma, not a big surprise that Oklahoma beat Texas for the 4th time in 5 years under Tom Herman at Texas. And now it's pretty much assured that Oklahoma State is going to be the only team that can make it out of the Big 12, perhaps potentially into the college football playoff. Their hopes lie solely and squarely on Oklahoma State. But here's some of my games to watch this week that I'm really excited about. First is UCF and Memphis. Dylan Gabriel has been fantastic. He's thrown for over 1,100 yards for the Golden Knights. And this is really the matchup, 2 teams in the American Athletic Conference that will most likely represent the non-Power 5 team in a New Year's Day Six Bowl. So I'm excited to see how Memphis is able to try and bounce back. They're facing off against a recently ranked UCF Golden Knights team, and contrasting styles. UCF likes to throw the football a lot. Memphis is a big running attack game. So that's game one that I'm excited about. Game two, LSU and Florida. Listen, I knew that LSU was going to have a letdown this year. 14 guys drafted in the NFL draft. They've lost 17 starters. Miles Brennan is fine. He's an adequate quarterback. He's thrown for over 1,100 yards. But what makes this interesting is both of these teams are coming off losses. Florida, with high expectations, lost to Texas A&M last week, 38-41. I expect Kyle Trask to bounce back. And this game is in the swamp this year. Florida lost in Death Valley to LSU last year, 28-42. So you know that they're going to come back looking to avenge that loss. So I'm really excited for two heavyweights in the SEC. And really, this is a big matchup for Florida because if they lose this game, now you're basically conceding the SEC East to Georgia, most likely. And I was hoping that those two teams could square off. So that would be something interesting to lose as well. And then the final game is Georgia and Alabama. I cannot wait for this game. Georgia is 0-5 versus Alabama dating back to 2007. Kirby Smart, a disciple of Nick Saban, is 0-2 against his former coach. Over the last two matchups, they lost to Alabama in the SEC championship game 2 years ago, lost 28-35, led in that game. That was when Jalen Hurts took over for Tua in the second half and orchestrated a comeback to catapult the Tide into the college football playoff. That was a special win. And then 3 years ago in the national championship game, Georgia once again with a huge lead. Tua, ironically, comes in for Jalen Hurts, who was benched, and leads them to victory. Both have taken place against the Georgia Bulldogs. And this is a matchup of contrasting styles. You've got Alabama, the number one passing offense in the country, number two in total offense. All right, one of the best rushing teams in the nation with Najee Harris. He's been special this year. I mean, Najee Harris, I mean, you look at him, 52 carries, 347 yards, 10 touchdowns, is a Heisman contender. Mac Jones is throwing the ball efficiently, but you're going up against Georgia that has the number one rush defense in the country. They're top six in total defense. Number two in third down defense, top 10 in first down defense, number 3 in team passing efficiency defense versus Alabama, who is one of the top 3 teams who that execute efficiently on offense. So I'm really excited for this matchup. It's probably going to be a preview of the SEC championship game. And again, Alabama hasn't lost to Georgia in the regular season since 2007. They've met up 5 times since then. So I'm looking forward to that. And then last thing, Baylor reported 42 cases of COVID, 28 players, 14 staff. Figure it out, guys. Figure it out. Really? 42 cases of COVID at this point in the year. You can't have that. You can't have that at all. That's inexcusable. It's unacceptable. And I don't know what the hell happened to Baylor after Matt Rule left. Okay. Final 2 topics of the day. Going to briefly cover the MLB playoffs. And my Malkins Moments is a great one. You're going to want to stick around for that. Again, Morning Joe right here on the Are You Serious Sports Network, on Facebook Live, on Twitch TV, on Twitter. Every Monday and Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 to 11 Central, 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific. Have your cup of Morning Joe. Hashtag Morning Joe. Hashtag JMalk. We like to spread the love. We like to spread the hashtags. So make sure to do so. Briefly, Dodgers and the Astros both in big holes right now. Astros trailing the Tampa Bay Rays 3-0. Dodgers 2-0. Let me first start with the Dodgers. I've said this before. This year was supposed to be the culmination and the ultimate rally of the city of Los Angeles. The Lakers responded. They won the NBA title after the tragic death of Kobe Bryant. This was supposed to be the year that seemingly every single major sport in Los Angeles would coalesce and unite around the same cause and win for something bigger than themselves. And now the series isn't over against the Braves, but right now it's looking very daunting. It's looking dire. And unfortunately, the Dodgers have had so many shortcomings in the postseason that not only as a Dodgers fan, but as a baseball fan, it's hard to stomach. I mean, you look at this team dating back to 2017. And really, you can go back further because in 2016, they lost to the Chicago Cubs in 6 games. 2017, they go to the postseason and they make it to the World Series. They lose to the Houston Astros in 7 games. We all know why that happened. But the bottom line was this. Game 2 at home, you're up 3-1. Kenley Jansen gives up a couple base hits in the top of the 8th, cuts the lead to 3-2. Top of the 9th, gives up a home run that sends the game into overtime. And in the 10th inning, then Joe Kelly comes in and gives up a home run as well. Unbelievable. I can't even look at this. Marwin Gonzalez hit a home run in the top of the 9th. Astros ended up winning that game in extra innings. Game 5 of the 2017 World Series at Minute Maid Park in the home of the Astros. Dodgers were up 4-0 heading into the bottom of the 4th inning. Kershaw gives up 2 home runs. They tied at 4-4. He's taken out. Dodgers go back up 7-4 at the top of the 5th. The bottom of the 5th, now you bring in someone else. Kenta Maeda comes in. He gives up a 3-run home run that ties the game at 7 apiece. The Astros hit 5 home runs in that game, and now we know why. And obviously, listen, Kershaw threw 50 curveballs in that Game 5 loss. And the Astros players did not swing at a single one. We know why. Because they cheated. We know why. But that doesn't heal the pain anymore for me. And they ultimately lost Game 7 at Dodger Stadium. Now let's go to 2018. They make it back to the World Series. They lose to the Boston Red Sox in 5 games. That was in that Game 3, the first game back at Dodger Stadium, where it went 18 innings, and the Dodgers pulled out 1 win. They won 3-2 in 18 innings, but ultimately lost in 5 games. Now you go to last year against the Washington Nationals. Now, the only thing that makes this slightly better is the fact that the Nationals went on to win the whole thing. But if not for that, this would be the epic collapse, maybe the most epic collapse of the postseason. And it's really unfortunate because, once again, Dodgers up 2-1 in a best-of-5 series. And in Game 5, they're up 3-1. Kershaw came in at the top of the 7th. This was not the best time to bring him in. He comes in at the top of the 7th, closes out 1 batter. Top of the 8th, gives up back-to-back home runs, and the game is tied at 3-3. And I feel badly for Kershaw. I really did. He gave a back-to-back home runs, Anthony Rendon, Juan Soto, and then the top of the 10th inning, Joe Kelly gives up a grand slam to Howie Kendrick, and the rest is history. The Nationals end up winning that game. Then against the Braves this year, Game 1, we're tied 1-1 in the top of the 9th. This is why you want to be the higher seed. This is what you work so hard for. Yes, you don't have home field advantage, but the benefit of getting the higher seed is at the first 2 games of the series, you get to be the bottom of the 9th team. You're tied 1-1, top of the 9th, setting yourself up in the perfect position, and the Dodgers give up 4 runs in the 9th inning. They didn't bring in Kenley. I don't necessarily know how much that would have helped, given his recent struggles, but you give up 4 runs in the top of the 9th. 2 homers in the top of the 9th in a 1-1 game. And then last night, they got down 7-0 quickly. Corey Seager, it's a 3-run homer. It's 7-3. Now you're down to 8-3 heading into the bottom of the ninth. And listen, they nearly pulled off perhaps one of the most miraculous comebacks in MLB postseason history. Mookie Betts, Will Smith beats out an air throw from Albies, gets on. Mookie Betts sends him home off a double. Will Smith is able to come home. It's 8-4. Max Muncy hits a 2-run homer. It's 8-6. Then AJ, let's see. No, not AJ Pollock. Someone else got on base. And then Bellinger hits a triple, sends him home. Bellinger is all the way at third with 2 outs. They've been rallying this 2-out rally, down 8-7. Bellinger at third, and AJ Pollock grounds out, and now they're down 0-2. They've got to figure this out. Dodgers have to find a way to come back. Tampa Bay, I'm thrilled that the Rays are up over the Astros. To be perfectly honest, I just don't really like the Astros. It's hard to like them right now. They did not have to suffer the vitriol that they would have faced, the hostility, the adversity they would have faced in road games. They get to avoid that for another year, which is very disappointing because that would have been something that they would have had to have gone through and endure the whole season. Now they got to bypass that. But the bottom line is the pitching for the Rays, and just how the pitching let the Dodgers down, the pitching for the Rays has been fantastic. I mean, Charlie Morin has had a sub-1 ERA this postseason in 10 innings. He's been special. And the bottom line, I mean, Randy Arozarena is batting over 400, 4 home runs this postseason. He's been special. Blake Snell, a sub-3 ERA. Their pitchers, Tyler Glasnow, 20 strikeouts so far. And Altuve hasn't played well. And the Astros batters, the bottom line is they're not playing up to snuff right now. And I'm happy to see it. Happy to see it. I'd love to see the Tampa Bay Rays close it out. All right, final topic of the day, Malkin's moments. This is just a feel-good story, and you folks from the South are going to love this. For the first time since November 1st, 1943, the Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns are nationally ranked. They're ranked 21st for the first time since 1943. Crazy to think that perhaps the best football team, college football team in the state of Louisiana is the Ragin' Cajuns as opposed to LSU. First time you're ranked in nearly a century, in 80 years. That calls for Malkin's moments. So anyway, apologies for the initial audio difficulties to start the show, but we're back live. And again, appreciate you sticking around with me. You've been listening to Morning Joe right here on the Are You Serious Sports Network, on Facebook Live, on Twitch TV, and on Twitter with yours truly, Jonah Malkin, every Monday and Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 to 11 Central, and 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific. And as always, have a great rest of your morning.